right, control flow is our next big section, and I mean big just because it's important. And I know I say that a lot of these modules are important, but all of these that we're covering right at the beginning are pretty fundamental. And control flow is a way of having a program go down one path at one point and change direction and take another path at another time. And again, this is something that's critical for a computer to be able to do if we're going to be successful in writing programs in general. So let's jump into control flow in Swift. So jumping into control flow, I wanted to break it up into kind of three simple areas. The first is, what is program flow? What do we mean by that? And then how do we affect it? The second one is, why is control flow important at all? And the third one is, how do we actually change control flow of our program in Swift? So how do we do it in the language? So let's start out where we consider a program, if you will, a program or a recipe in this case, for making a grilled cheese sandwich. So we can imagine that if I were to give a robot some instructions on how to make a grilled cheese sandwich, I might say, get 2 slices of bread from the cupboard, get 2 slices of cheese from the refrigerator, create a sandwich with the bread and the cheese. I then could say, well, let's butter each side of the bread. Let's heat the skillet to 250 degrees. Let's add the sandwich to the skillet and fry until golden brown on each side until the cheese is melted. So that would be a program that a robot could follow to actually make a grilled cheese sandwich. So given this program, what are some of the decisions that might happen, or decisions that are kind of implied in this program at this point? So I would open it up to the class to kind of talk through that. So one place we might ask a question or have to make a decision is really checking, for example, bread and cheese. So if we look at our program now, we might say, hey, check to see if you have 2 slices of bread in the cupboard and cheese in the refrigerator, because if you don't have it, you can't make a grilled cheese sandwich. So that check has to happen first. Now, if we don't have either one of these ingredients, what are we going to have to do? We have to go to the store to go buy them. So in that case, if we don't have these items, we go to the store, we purchase them, we come home and we put them away in the cupboard and in the fridge for future use when we're ready to make the grilled cheese sandwich. So assuming that we are now ready, we get the bread and cheese from the cupboard and the fridge. Again, we create the sandwich, we butter each side of the bread, we heat the skillet, and we add the sandwich to the skillet, fry until golden brown, and we've made a grilled cheese sandwich. So when we think about this, there are 2 flows through this. So when we look at this in general, one flow is showing where we've gone right here from the first instruction all the way down, but we didn't take this path right here. And the reason we didn't take that path is why? Well, the likelihood is that when we checked to see if we had bread and cheese, it turned out to be true. Remember when we covered Booleans, true and false? That's true. And this is saying if it's not true, like if we don't have them, go do something else. Since it was true, we just went straight through. And that would be one flow through the program. So what would be another flow through the program? Well, this would be the second flow. The second flow says we've gone to check for these ingredients. Turns out we don't have them. So if we don't have them, we have to take a different path through our recipe, a different path through our set of instructions to actually accomplish the task that we need to do. And so we go take the second path, and then we come back, and then we execute our instructions like we did before. But this now is a new program with a decision path that is in here, and it accommodates for the fact that we don't have the ingredients up front. So another question would be, where else might we make decisions? So we won't cover them here, but I think it's important to think about there's other places where a decision might be made. For example, here we say butter each side of the bread, but we then check to see if we had butter. So maybe we wanted to check for butter at some point as well. And maybe we don't want to check it here. We want to check it up here with the others so that when we go to the store, we get all 3 ingredients. I mean, those are one of many different possibilities. Another one is heating the skillet to 250 degrees. Well, is the skillet at 250? So we have to make a decision. If it is at 250, then we can go ahead and fry the sandwich, but if it isn't, then we have to wait. So these are possible places where decisions could be made. So let's look at how we change our flow in Swift. So basically, we start out with an if statement. So just like we said, if we have certain ingredients, then we don't need to do something, or if we don't have ingredients, we do need to do something. This is the basic form of a control flow if statement, which is fundamental to your programming and what you'll use quite a bit. It always starts out with if here. So this is the if statement right here. And then it's followed by a Boolean expression, which is right here. And then we have two other critical items. We have this open bracket and we have this closed bracket. And those are critical because everything inside these open and closed brackets, all these statements that we have here, are only going to occur if this Boolean expression is true. If this is true, then this gets executed. All right? Now, we can take this out, and we can also look at the alternative path, which is to say, what if it isn't true? So if this Boolean expression turned out to be false, we might have some other things that we want to do instead. And we can do that with the else. So by adding else here at the end of this bracket, and then doing more open brackets and closed brackets here, we can add other statements here. So the way you want to think about it is if this turns out to be true, we do these two statements. Else, if this is false, so this ends up being false, we do the else part, we do these statements here. So true is here, else, i.e. false, is here. And then once this is done, any statements after this are going to just be executed normally. So we come into this, we say, if true, we go this way. So it would be like this. Let's see if I can draw it. So we say, you know, if this is true, we're going to go this way. And if I say if it's false, well, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do this, and that's false. So that is control flow with an if statement. One other thing you can do is you can add these if statements over and over again and nest them. So just like we have this Boolean expression here, we say if this, and we have statement. We have a statement 2 here with a closing bracket, and then we have another statement out here. We could expand this and add another if statement inside this. So we can have as many of these as we want. So if we look at this control flow, we have several different choices. So we can say if this Boolean expression is true, this one right here, if that's true, and let's say this is true as well, then what's going to happen? Well, we're going to come in here. It's going to be this is true. We are going to do statement 1. As we come out of here, there's no else. So since this was true, we're going to do statement 1, we're going to do statement 2, we're going to come back out again, and because this is not part of the if, we're going to do statement 3. So in this scenario where we have two trues, we have a true right here and a true right here, we will actually execute every one of these statements. All right, so let's look at this code right here and talk to the class about how they might see various statements executing. So really the question is, if we start out with a statement like this, where we have a variable that's assigned a value, and we look at the various if statements that occur here, and we look at how they're grouped here and here, which statements will actually be executed based on this code right here? So that's a great place to pause, have a discussion around that, but I'll take you through it at this point. So the logic is that if my variable, my age here, is set to a value of 16, The first if statement here is going to say, is 16 less than 16? Well, no, it's not. So the reality is we're going to skip this whole section here, and we're going to do this statement down here. And therefore, the right answer to this is statement 3 is the only statement that will be executed. So let's try another one. So now all we've changed is that the variable my age is now set to 14. So how might we think about which statements might run in this case? So if we think through it, we have my age is 14. It's less than 16. So now I am going to do what's within these brackets. And if I come to this statement here and it's saying, is my age greater than 12? Well, yes, it is. My age is greater than 12. So actually, we're now going to do the things within these curly brackets right here. So that means that statement 1 would get executed. And then, of course, if this if statement, whether it's executed or not, it comes down to this statement right here. This is the next statement. So statement 2 would be executed. And then once it finishes what's being done in the if, statement 3 will be executed. So in this scenario, all 3 statements are going to be executed. And then here's another case. Now here we have my age set to 10. So what do we think the statements will be that are executed in this scenario? And hopefully they'll say, well, okay, my age is definitely less than 16. So I'm in this bracket here, or I'm in this bracket here, but is my age greater than 12? Well, it's not, so therefore I'm not going to do statement 1. But, of course, the end of the if is right here, so we are inside the if, so we are going to do statement 2, and we are going to do statement 3. So the right answers for that are statement 2 and statement 3. Now, if we look at this scenario, gosh, it looks kind of familiar, doesn't it? It looks like we actually went through this, but we've changed it. Notice down here we've added an else. So now there's an else around this statement 3. So how would this work? What statements would run in this scenario? So we have my age set to 16. We say if my age is less than 16, then we're going to do what's in these brackets, but it's not less than 16 is not less than 16. So we will do the else, which means we will do statement 3. But what's interesting is that if we had come in and did this section in here, so if we executed any of this code in here, the else block will not run, and therefore statement 3 would not be executed. So that's control flow, and there'll definitely be some good exercises to kind of work through this and really kind of get it to sink in. But we talked about what a program flow is and how do we affect it. We know we do that with an if statement. The control flow is important because obviously if we don't know how to change direction in a algorithm, we are not going to be able to solve a lot of problems. And the third is how do we change control flow in Swift? That's the if statement.